This video has been sponsored by Uniformation. Check the links in the description for all the products we've used. 3D printing, touted by some to be the beginning of the end of Games Workshop. Is there any truth to that? Or is it just too early to tell? After trying out some 3D printed bits that we bought in a previous video, today we're going to have a little competition. Who can make the most Black Templar? Geoff, who can only use Games Workshop parts, or myself, who can also use those, but I'm also going to have access to a 3D printer and anything that I can get off of it. We don't have forever to make this video, so we're going to try and see what we can do in about a day. Spoiler alert for myself, it takes quite a bit longer.
The Black Templars, zealots, massively long crusades, killers of the witch, the heretic, and the mutant. But most of all, very snappy dressers as Marines go. We used the Templars as a template for our little competition here of 3D printed parts versus Games Workshop parts. They're the ideal ones to use. They have so many interesting things, candles, tabards, chains, books, you name it. They're the ones that we thought would really test what we could both do when it came to modelling. In an effort to keep Games Workshop in business, their fate rests on my shoulders. I'm going to attempt to make Marines that are battle line ready using Games Workshop's Black Templar range. Some people may say, Geoff, you're cheating because you're already starting from a Templar base. This is true. To give this a real competition, I would really be starting with an intercessor. But why would you when you've already got a 10-man squad which have got tabards and chains on guns, all the things you need? So I got to work. I started clipping them out and trying to find just the right bits to make the perfect looking crusading maniac. So as you can see, the parts are a complete mix. I've used some pieces from the Crusader squad for the main body. I then went and found a very cool head in the Sword Brethren kit, and then things that you must have being your lantern, your holy hand grenades of Antiloch, and the big fire on his back all came from the Sword Brethren kit. I had this guy ready to hunt, burn, and decapitate a witch in less than an hour.
So I'm team printing, and if I'm perfectly honest, I feel well out of my depth here. I've been put off 3D printing in the past by watching a lot of videos and sort of realizing that I don't have the time or drive to get into another hobby. I want it to be easier for me to do. But as luck would have it, Uniformation got in touch and they very kindly sent us the GKTwo, which has an incredible reputation for being a very accessible printer. They also sent a washing station and a curing box as well. So again, thank you so much, Uniformation, for sending this to us. But before I play with any of these cool pieces of kit, I'm going to have to find something that I can print off of it. And I also think I'm going to phone a friend here to get some help, because I think I need it. For the STLs, I've decided to use the Eternal Pilgrim bits from Growtide Studios. Downloaded them from my manufactory for about 60 quid. Perfect gothic bits. So my main questions as I rapidly approach having to print something: what resin is best to use? Do I need to do any test prints, calibration type stuff? Generally, just how does it all work? Well, as I mentioned, I phoned a friend and they know what they're doing. It's Ross from Warhammer, and I think he knows a thing or two about 3D printing. You can watch his full technical, really good review of the GKTwo just up there. He very kindly bought me some of his Wargamer resin. From what I gather, it's been formulated to look and feel like GW plastic, something as Wargamers we're all very familiar with. It cleans up nicely, great quality, all that good stuff. And one of the first things we did was put this sort of magnetized air filter on the back of the printer. Absolutely amazing feature. Keeps all the smells and the fumes away, so printing in the office, amazing. And then started to level the build plate. That was surprisingly straightforward. Folded up some little bits of paper a couple of times, few twists and turns with an Allen key, and you keep playing and tweaking until you can't pull them out. We just followed a YouTube tutorial and it was dead easy. poured in the resin, got this great little feature so you know when it's full and you can't overfill it. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd have to really want to. I got GKTwo installed on my PC. Ross sent me this PDF with like the print settings for his resin and the GK2, and all I had to do was just install that. So he's done all the testing with the resin and this printer. He just sent me the file, fed it in, job done. This does feel almost too easy. Now it's dragging the STLs into GKTwo, which does take a little while, making sure everything kind of overlaps on the bases, but not with the models. You want to fill the plate apparently, so you got to get it done. Didn't have any software crashes, awesome. And then it's time to see how much all of this will cost me in resin.
Okay, so I've been in GKTwo for the first time and I've loaded up my build plate. I think I've probably put about 5 or 6 upgrade sprues worth of stuff on the plate, which if I was going to buy that from Games Workshop, that would be about 150 quid, something like that. So I'm going to hit this slice button and I'm going to see how much it's going to cost me in resin. I'm quite excited. I don't think it's going to be 150 quid. I think it will be 30. Let's find out. It's £4.75.
Close enough.
£4.75. That's ridiculous. Oh my God. Okay.
I painted this guy mainly using paints from the AK range. I went for a quite muddy, brownish look to the tabard. For most of the armour, I did light grey highlighting and metallic chips to give it that really worn-in look to show that crusade he's been on has really taken its toll on me. So I went in with a couple of different shades of red to make him into a veteran Templar. I painted this guy in a couple of hours. Whilst I was painting him, Pat had to have outside help in trying to show him how to use the printer.
Time to hit Control P and print. All sliced up, just plug the USB into the GK2. Some of the USBs are kind of notorious for being a bit unstable. This actually has some built-in storage, so dead safe, dead secure. Get that loaded up and just hit print. The GK2 has its own built-in fan heater to get the resin up to the perfect temperature for printing. Once it gets to temperature, it starts printing automatically, and it was about 6 hours for this print. So the print's finished. I can see the outline of models through the case. I'm going to open it up and try and clean them. Ross isn't here anymore. I feel a bit naked without him, but I'm sure I'll be fine. And if I mess anything up, only cost me a £5, so maybe 10 quid isn't too bad. But yes, cleaning next. First time doing it. See what happens. Got to wash and cure them, rinse them off first, and then it was into the ultrasonic cleaner. Seemed easy enough. And just let them drain for a bit into the curing station. Did that for 10-15 minutes until they didn't feel tacky anymore. Done. Results of my first print. Really shiny and some loss of detail. After speaking to Ross, he thought they weren't in the cleaner for long enough, as there was some sort of leftover blobs of resin just in the recesses of stuff, obscuring some of that detail. After looking at the cleaner, I realised that I hadn't taken a piece of foam out from under the tray, so that would have stopped it cleaning properly. I am an idiot. Even though I made the mistake with the ultrasonic cleaner, some of the detail is still actually really, really good. I think you only really notice it when you compare them to the second prints that I did, especially like on the bases, the recesses, that kind of stuff. You can really see how much of a difference that's made. Everything's just a lot cleaner, a lot crisper. I still wanted to make something of these, so had a play and stuck a bunch of parts on a marine torso. First attempt at my third-party Black Templar. I feel like I might have overdone it a bit. I've been let loose with the freedom of 3D printing cool bits, and I'm not sure this quite looks like a Space Marine anymore. Maybe the helmet makes it a bit less Warhammery. I've also used quite a lot of bits. I've used 8 on here, which might be too much. Is less more in this case? But if I want to use less bits, also, what's the point? This printer is awesome, and after making this first dues, my kind of immediate thoughts are it's like being handed the keys to a Ferrari and only driving to the shop and back. I don't think I'm using the printer to its full potential, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right then, it's the end of my working day. I have a school run to go to. I've got a completed Templar. He looks great. He's ready to join his mates. In fact, he is ready to take the tentacle clean off a mutant's shoulder. This guy looks like a Black Templar. The parts are designed to go on a Black Templar. I have a whole range of them at my disposal, sitting there on sprues. I can take him to a tournament and no one's going to be looking at me going, what's that thing? Is that off a printer? Took no time to clean up. A file and a set of clippers. I put this guy together, got him painted. Pat had to have a friend round, teach him how to do it. If I'm being honest, I think they went and had a pint, and then he came back and carried on staring through the little glass window. This guy cost £81.59. But he didn't really, because who's making one Templar? We know there's loads of them. For that amount of money, you're going to get 15 miniatures, and also the ability to upgrade a vehicle and turn a generic Marine captain or lieutenant into something that looks a little bit more like he should be in charge of your Templar army. This guy's blatantly a Black Templar. He's got a tabard. He come from a box full of things that are Black Templar. There is no way you're confusing him as anything else. I've got this in the bag. Games Workshop make him. They call them Black Templars already. So my nemesis in this video, being Pat, I've had a look what he was doing, and I've got to say there is some great stuff there. Some of the 3D parts are really, really gothic. Some of them look a little bit like I wouldn't know where to start painting them because there's a lot of detail and a lot of it's tiny. But to be fair, some of it I am a bit jealous of. I'd like to be having in my Templar army.
So take 2, hit reprint, and time to try again. Cleaned up the second bunch, let them dry for a lot longer this time, gave them a quick dab with a paper towel before I put them into the curing station, and this time it worked way better, as I said. So whilst I make up my second and third attempts with a 3D printer, I think my thoughts are as follows. Games Workshop obviously own all the IP to this sort of stuff. Bits companies can get close, but they're always going to be an imitation. I think with these bits, the shoulder pads are absolutely my favourite. The skulls, candles and capes are all sort of secondary to that. They're a great addition to a GW kit, adding a bit of flavour. I think I still find myself going for the bolters and the flamers and all that kind of stuff first over these 3D printed arms and guns and that kind of thing. You start changing too many things, it does become less sort of Warhammer 40k, less Black Templar. I think maybe doing this with just 1 or 2 Marines maybe was the wrong idea, and this is better suited over a larger number of miniatures. If they've all got cool flames on, I think that would look a bit better, or if 1 in 10 backpacks were different, that would look better than every single backpack being different, if that makes sense. So Games Workshop own Black Templars. They decide what they look like. If you want Black Templars to look official, Games Workshop are the best option, or you can just sort of put on a few little bits here and there. But again, having all this equipment, it feels almost like an improper use of it to print off a little candle and stick it on someone's backpack or something like that. But if you are a hobbyist that really enjoys 3D printing and you've got the time to invest into it, then I think, absolutely using the bits on your miniatures and customizing them and being able to go wild is awesome. The more I've done this, the more I've enjoyed it. I think the more I print, the more I play, the more I get out of it. Have I made better Black Templars than Games Workshop? Probably not. Have I had a lot of fun, and have I made some cool looking Marines? Yes, I think I have. So as I mentioned previously, and with my sort of sports car misusing it analogy, I feel like that's on me for not feeling like I'm not using this printer to its full potential. So whilst I've been building up this second lot of Marines, I've had some full miniatures printing in the background. And check out this orc dude from Mezgeik and these definitely not killer cans. This feels like I'm cooking with gas now and using all this awesome kit to more of its potential. I might even try and start printing busts and painting some of those. Games Workshop who? And again, there's a bit of a shout out to the quality of the printing and the resin that Ross very kindly sent me. I had a friend over to the studio and he picked up one of these miniatures and said, "Oh cool, which bits are 3D printed?" Because the colour's quite similar, the quality is exceptional. So at first glance, it's really nice building 3D printed bits with Games Workshop bits, and they look quite similar. I'm more used to having sort of white resin bits that stick on, and you can only sort of start to get a feel for the miniature after it's been primed. With these, they look amazing straight away. And I feel like with this sort of orc boss with his massive axe and his grot gunning on the top, this really feels like I'm getting into it now. Assembling this and seeing it and all the options that they gave you, and yeah, this is great fun. I feel like I'm starting to get bitten by the 3D printing bug. So initially we went into this video thinking that it might be sort of like a fun day-long competition, see what we can do with 3D printing, gonna destroy Games Workshop, is the sky falling down? And I think that was probably the wrong way to go about it. This has been really great fun all in of itself. I think the wonderful thing about the hobby is it's almost whatever you want it to be. If you want to have all of this and use it to print shoulder pads, awesome. Definitely recommend it. But if you want to print your full miniatures as well, if you don't even want to use it to print miniatures and you want to print doorstops, you can just do whatever you want. And I think that freedom of having the 3D printer is amazing. So there we have it. The channel's first foray into 3D printing parts for wargaming. Is the sky falling down for Games Workshop? For the majority of its customers, I'm going to say no. Whilst this process has been remarkably straightforward, it's still several extra layers and a whole bunch more time if you could just go out and buy a plastic kit anyway. All that being said though, I did have an incredible time. I think this has been the closest you can get to hitting Control P and miniatures come out of the other end, and it's been a really, really fun experience to try and get to grips with. If you love 3D printing, I'm sure Games Workshop have lost out on some amount of money for people that print their miniatures instead of purchasing from them. Is a printer like this how it starts? How far are we along the curve of 3D printing taking over traditional injection molded plastic? I think it's a little bit of a way off. As easy as this was, it could potentially still get a little bit more user-friendly and a bit easier, but incredible printers like the GKTwo are definitely pushing people like me onto that curve. Here I am printing my first bits and models. I'm having a lot of fun in the process. If you have thoughts on this, I'd be really keen to know. I'm by no means an expert, and I'm just sort of verbally diarrheaing what my experiences have been. This video started off as a competition, and honestly, I've got no idea where we're at now. A huge thank you for watching, especially if you've made this far, and again to our patrons who make all of this possible. You guys are wonderful, and thank you very much.